Santa's Galactic Delivery. The sleigh runs on quantum fuel. The North Pole was in utter chaos. The once picturesque, snow-dusted village had evolved into a sprawling, high-tech operation. Towering metal spires gleamed in the winter sunlight, surrounded by busy production lines. Elves in sleek, modern uniforms darted around, working on everything from holographic ornaments to interstellar communication systems. The festive charm of old was still visible. Twinkling lights, candy cane-striped railings, and large snowdrifts. But it had taken on an industrial edge. The workshop, normally filled with the cheerful hum of music and merriment, now had a chaotic rhythm of its own. The sound of drills whirring, laser cutters snipping, and the occasional whiff of something burning filled the air. A few of the younger elves were experimenting with new toy designs, while the more seasoned ones grumbled about progress. Sparks flew from a workbench where an elf was welding an upgraded version of the sleigh's roof, while others made frantic adjustments to the reindeer hover sleds. In the middle of it all, Jingles the Elf was losing his mind. His usually tidy uniform was askew, and his hat had somehow found itself on backward. He darted around like a pinball, clipboard clutched tightly in one hand while the other scratched frantically at his head. He paused momentarily to shout instructions at an elf who had nearly dropped a plasma wrench into the new sleigh's engines. "No, no, no! Don't cross the wires! You'll short out the fuel lines!" Jingles shrieked, causing the young elf to jump, knocking over a pile of laser-targeted presents. I'll fix it," the elf stammered, quickly diving into the mess. Jingles threw his hands up in exasperation. "I swear this is why I can't delegate." He marched toward Santa's office, his boots clanging on the metal floors. He flung open the door without knocking, nearly sending a stack of holiday schematics flying off the desk. Santa, who had been lounging behind his desk, sipping cocoa with his feet up, looked at Jingles through half-lidded eyes. His plump cheeks were rosy from a mix of holiday cheer and the warmth of his drink, and his signature red coat was, as always, immaculately pressed. Despite the frenzy outside, he was the picture of calm. The only sign of stress was a faint wrinkle between his brows, a byproduct of the stress-free years of being Santa. Jingles burst in, waving his clipboard in the air. "Santa, we have a huge problem," he yelped, his voice rising an octave higher with each word. "The sleigh, the quantum fuel, it's gone." Santa didn't flinch. He took another slow sip of cocoa, watching the frantic elf, the silence in the room making Jingles twitchier by the second. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" Santa asked, the calmness in his voice belying the storm he could sense outside his office. "I mean, there's no quantum fuel, Santa." Jingles squeaked. "The Alpha Cluster traders, those guys, were supposed to deliver the quantum fuel shipment this morning, but they're in a trade war with the Zarkons. They've pulled out of the deal. We've got nothing, and if we don't find some fast, the whole mission's off. Christmas is doomed." Santa set his cocoa down slowly, as if the whole situation was just another minor inconvenience. "Doomed? Jingles, you're using that word like it's a guarantee. We've been through much worse. Ho, ho, ho." Jingles' eyes widened, and he began pacing, muttering to himself. "Christmas is doomed, yes, because the Galactic Holiday Council is expecting us to deliver to 4 new planets this year, and without the quantum fuel, we won't even get off the ground. You know what that means, Santa. We'll be the laughing stock of the entire galaxy. Do you know what the Zarkons will say? They'll never let us live it down." Now, Santa said with a soft chuckle, his deep voice still steady. "It's not like we haven't been in tight spots before. Last year I had to deliver to 3 planets that were literally in the middle of a supernova event, and you didn't see me sweating about it. We just need to think this through." Jingles was no longer listening. "Think this through? Santa, do you hear yourself? We've never been in a situation like this. The quantum fuel is what powers the whole sleigh. It's what makes it faster than light, what allows us to bend space-time. Without it, we're stuck here, like a sleigh on the side of the road with no reindeer to pull it." Santa leaned back in his chair with a knowing smile. "Oh, I think we can manage. I've got a few friends in the galaxy who owe me favors. A few old contacts who can help us out in a pinch. Jingles froze mid-panic, his hand still clutching his clipboard. Wait, who do you know? Santa, who could possibly have quantum fuel lying around for us? Santa smiled, the twinkle in his eyes lighting up his whole face. I've got a little friend named Zorpax, a mechanic on Clorbid. He's got the best underground network of fuel suppliers in the galaxy. If anyone can help, it's Zorpax. Jingles' eyes narrowed. Zorpax? The one who only accepts payment in cookies? The one who nearly blew up the workshop with that experimental candy cane fuel last year? Yes, that's Zorpax, Santa confirmed with a nod. He may be a bit unconventional, but he knows how to get things done. And he knows how much I appreciate a good batch of cookies. Jingles stood there for a moment, his face a mixture of disbelief and growing dread. You really want to call him? We're talking about the mechanic who reprogrammed our Sleigh's navigation system to only play Christmas carols for an entire week, even during interplanetary space travel. Santa chuckled softly. Yes, but he did help us fix the heat shield after that, and he learned to appreciate the music. With a heavy sigh, Jingles ran a hand through his hair. All right. If you think Zorpax is our best shot, I'm all in. But this is going to be a nightmare. Santa winked. That's the spirit. You get the sleigh prepped and I'll make the call. Ho, ho, ho. He stood up, his jolly laughter echoing through the room. Jingles grumbled under his breath. Great. What's next? Space pirates? Quantum black holes? Asteroids with a vendetta? He mumbled as he walked out, heading toward the launch bay where the crew was waiting. Jingles trudged down the icy halls of the North Pole's hangar, the echo of his boots reverberating against the walls. The bustle of busy elves surrounded him as they scrambled to finalize preparations for the big night. Their red uniforms glowed against the harsh lighting, and the air was thick with the smell of peppermint, gingerbread, and something suspiciously like burning circuits. Elves, of course, were known for their speed, but even they couldn't seem to avoid a few minor accidents now and then. The sleigh stood at the far end of the hangar, gleaming as it always did, ready for its most important flight of the year. But Jingles wasn't focused on the sleigh at the moment. His mind was preoccupied with the missing quantum fuel. Without it, Christmas wouldn't happen, and the thought of facing Santa with that kind of failure hanging over him made his stomach churn. He scanned the hangar one last time, noticing a group of elves crowding around a suspicious-looking mechanical contraption. It was making a noise that sounded like a tiny baby dragon trying to start a fire. Right, no time for distractions, Jingles muttered to himself, shaking his head. Focus. Find Zorpax. Jingles pulled out his communicator from his pocket. He pressed a button to bring up a holographic screen. The projection flickered into life, revealing the grizzled, somewhat singed face of Zorpax, the intergalactic mechanic. His deep-set eyes glowed faintly, and behind him the sound of something sizzling, definitely not in a good way, echoed. Well, if it isn't Jingles. What's up, buddy? Zorpax's voice boomed, rich with sarcasm and whatever chaos he was currently orchestrating in the background. Is it time to rescue Christmas again? Or did you just want to hear my latest DIY disaster? Jingles couldn't help but roll his eyes. Yeah, I'm sure your DIY disasters are already legendary. Listen, Zorpax, I need a big favor. The quantum fuel shipment we were expecting, well, it's not showing up. And without it, we've got no way of getting the sleigh off the ground. Zorpax raised an eyebrow, though it was hard to tell with his usual half-smirk. What happened? You've got a whole workshop full of elves and not a single one of them can fix it. Tisk, tisk, Jingles, your operation's slipping. Jingles growled in frustration, but kept his voice even. It's not about fixing it, Zorpax. I need you to get me the fuel. You've got the contacts. You know the suppliers. Zorpax's holographic face leaned in closer, his grin widening. Ah, so you're coming to me for the good stuff, huh? I see. But you know I don't give out favors for free, Jingles. What's in it for me? Zorpax, if we don't get that quantum fuel, Christmas is going to be cancelled. This whole place is on the line here. Jingles shot back, feeling the pressure building. So, I'm not in the mood for your games right now. What do you want? Zorpax tapped a finger to his temple, looking up as if he were considering it. Well, what I want, he said, stretching out the word like a cat contemplating its next meal, is for you to bake me a batch of black hole fudge. Jingles stared at him, blinking. Black hole fudge, are you serious? Do you know how many rules we'd be breaking if we made that? It's literally an existential threat to the universe. Zorpax's hologram shimmered, and his grin turned mischievous. Well, yeah, but that's what makes it so fun, don't you think? It's the perfect way to cap off the holiday season. A fudge so powerful it could tear a hole in the fabric of space-time. I'll throw in the quantum fuel if you manage to pull it off. You'll be remembered for all time, or at least for the time it takes to make the fudge anyway. Jingles ran a hand through his messy hair, sighing deeply. Why do I even ask you for help? You're the worst. He paused for a moment, tapping his fingers against his communicator. All right, fine, I'll make your ridiculous fudge, but if the universe implodes because of it, I'm holding you personally responsible. Zorpax laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Deal. You'll get the recipe, don't worry. Just don't blow up the North Pole, all right? I need this place to stay operational for the holidays. Jingles groaned. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I swear this is the last favor I ever do for you, Zorpax. Zorpax's image disappeared with a wink, leaving Jingles staring at the empty communicator screen. He let out a long, exasperated breath. All right, black hole fudge, I've made gingerbread houses explode. I've tried to bake a fruitcake that wasn't radioactive, but this is next-level insanity. Just then, a familiar, booming voice interrupted his train of thought. Jingles, old buddy, how's everything going in the workshop? Jingles jumped, spinning around to see Santa Claus himself walking up, his red coat shimmering with holiday cheer. He looked every bit the part of the jolly old elf, except for the way his eyes twinkled as he looked at Jingles, a glint of mischief in them. Jingles managed a weak smile, but it was clear he wasn't ready for another pep talk. Oh, you know, Santa, just getting everything ready for Christmas, he said, his voice a little dry, except for the small detail of not having enough quantum fuel to make it all work. Santa chuckled, a hearty sound that filled the air. No need to worry, Jingles. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You always do. You've got that elf magic after all. Jingles raised an eyebrow, trying to keep a straight face. Elf magic? Santa, I'm baking black hole fudge for Zorpax. That's my magic right now. Santa's eyes lit up. Ah, now that's what I'm talking about. Chaos and sweet treats. You're really embracing the holiday spirit, huh? Just don't blow up the kitchen this time. Last year's pudding incident is still fresh in my mind. I swear if I get one more holiday disaster on my record, I'll retire, Jingles muttered, turning toward the kitchen. But fine, let's go bake the universe's deadliest dessert. Santa patted him on the back, laughing. That's the spirit. Just remember, Jingles, no matter how crazy things get, Christmas always finds a way to shine through. Jingles didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked back at the sleigh, then at the buzzing kitchens, and then back at Santa. With a resigned sigh, he nodded. Well, let's see if we can save Christmas, before Zorpax's fudge saves us all. From reality. The North Pole kitchen was a sight to behold. Elves scurried about in their red and green uniforms, working with astonishing speed and precision as they prepared mountains of cookies, trays of cupcakes, and vats of eggnog. The air was thick with the scent of cinnamon and gingerbread, but amidst all this festive production stood Jingles, staring at the recipe Zorpax had sent him. He couldn't believe it. The fudge recipe was written in what appeared to be a combination of intergalactic mathematics and ancient cryptic symbols. Jingles squinted at it, the words blurring together. Mix the energy crystals with the dark matter syrup, he muttered to himself, shaking his head. Yeah, sure. Just another Tuesday at the North Pole. A loud, squeaky voice suddenly interrupted his thoughts. What are you doing, Jingles? You look like a deer in headlights. Jingles turned to see Tinsel, one of the head elves, standing at the entrance to the kitchen. She was holding a clipboard and wearing a pair of oversized glasses that kept slipping down her nose. Tinsel was as sharp as they came when it came to organization, but completely useless when it came to anything fun. Do you need help with that recipe? She asked, her eyes wide in mock concern. It looks complicated, and, possibly hazardous to the space-time continuum. Understatement of the century, Jingles replied dryly. He glanced at the recipe again. This isn't just any fudge. Zorpax wants it to be a black hole fudge. It's supposed to be so powerful it could tear open a rift in the fabric of reality. Right. And that's totally normal for Christmas, Tinsel said sarcastically, tapping her foot. Well, I guess I'll leave you to it then. We don't need another disaster like last year's gingerbread house explosion, do we? Jingles sighed, feeling the weight of the pressure bearing down on him. I don't think that was technically my fault. Tinsel raised an eyebrow. I'm pretty sure the fire marshal would disagree. Anyway, we're counting on you. Don't blow up the North Pole, okay? Santa says the sleigh needs to be loaded and ready to go in 2 hours. Oh, and we need some cookies for the reindeer, too. Jingles' face fell. Right, of course. Just let me handle the universe-ending dessert first, Tinsel. The elf gave him a curt nod before scurrying off, her clipboard bouncing as she hurried away to organize another crisis. Jingles muttered to himself again, turning back to the ingredients list. As he started mixing, a series of peculiar items came together. Dark matter syrup, quantum sugar crystals, and what looked like a crushed star fragment. As he mixed them together, the color shifted from a deep purple to a neon green, and tiny, sparkly fragments floated in the air around it. Jingles couldn't decide if it was the look of the fudge that was the problem, or the fact that he was pretty sure the ingredients shouldn't have actually been floating. He scooped the mixture into a bowl, trying to ignore the little sparkles that floated into his hair. The fudge was starting to look like a swirling galaxy in a dish, and then it started humming. A low, ominous hum. Okay, nope, this is too much, Jingles said, holding up his hands in defeat. He quickly grabbed a spoon to stir it once more, only for a small bolt of lightning to shoot out of the bowl, zapping him square in the chest. Ah! Jingles jumped back, dropping the spoon. Well, that's new. He looked down at the half-melted fudge now sizzling in the bowl. It was almost like a sentient being pulsing and shifting as if it had a life of its own. Jingles, came a voice from behind him. He turned to see Comet, one of the reindeer, poking his head through the kitchen door. The reindeer had been trained in all sorts of things over the years, from flying sleighs to navigating asteroid fields. But Comet had always been a bit of a prankster, especially around the holidays. He wore a festive scarf and grinned at the chaos in the kitchen. What is that? Comet asked, eyeing the glowing, humming bowl of fudge with a mix of amusement and genuine concern. It's supposed to be black hole fudge, Jingles explained, trying to sound nonchalant as he pushed a stray piece of chocolate back into the mix. But it's clearly going off script. Well, that's no surprise, Comet replied, his grin widening. Zorpax is a little bit insane. You did read the fine print on that recipe, didn't you? Fine print? Jingles' voice cracked slightly. There was no fine print. It was literally just chaos written in a recipe format. Right, Comet said, chuckling. You've got about 15 minutes to finish this before the kitchen turns into a giant snow globe of doom. Maybe you should call in a backup. Jingles looked at the bubbling, shimmering bowl, and then back at Comet, clearly at his wit's end. I don't know if I should be calling Zorpax or the fire department. Why not both? Comet said with a wink. Anyway, don't blow up the North Pole, Jingles. We kind of need it for the reindeer's annual Christmas Eve nap. Right. Thanks, Comet. Really helpful, Jingles muttered, turning back to his work. As he began to carefully transfer the fudge into a tin, a loud, booming voice echoed through the kitchen door. Jingles, we need to check the sleigh. It was Santa, of course. Jingles quickly glanced at the clock. All right, hold your sleigh reins, Santa, he muttered under his breath. I've got this under control, I think. The North Pole workshop was a whirlwind of activity. Elves were running between stations, mixing ingredients, kneading dough and frosting cookies with precise care. Every surface seemed to be covered in sprinkles, powdered sugar, and crumbs. Yet somehow there was an air of calm focus in the chaos. Santa leaned back against the counter, wiping flour from his beard, his eyes twinkling as he surveyed the workshop. Well done, my elves. We've got the best batch of treats ready in years. This year's Christmas will be unforgettable. Jingles, always quick with a quip, was holding up a particularly large gingerbread man decorated with a bit too much icing. I call this one the last cookie standing. I'm pretty sure it's only a matter of time before it starts a rebellion. Santa laughed heartily. Jingles, that cookie's about to start a war in the kitchen. Let's hope it doesn't inspire any actual revolutions this year. Just then, a small elf with a clipboard scurried over. Santa, the reindeer team is prepped and ready. We've got Rudy 2.0 locked in and ready to take the sleigh out. The only thing we're missing is the quantum fuel. Right, Santa said, nodding with a sigh. I just hope Zorpax is holding up his end of the bargain. That space station of his is always such a hassle. Zorpax? Jingles raised an eyebrow. You're still relying on that guy for fuel? He's always halfway across the galaxy and never gets back on time. We might be flying a horse and buggy by the time he's ready. Santa smirked, patting Jingles on the back. You're right, he's a bit of a handful. But we've been working together for decades, Jingles. He's dependable. Eventually. With that, Santa motioned for the crew to follow him outside. They stepped into the snowy, crisp night, their boots crunching in the thick snow. The sleigh stood there, gleaming beneath the light of the shimmering northern lights. A beautiful sight, but a bit older and worn from years of use. Jingles slapped the side of the sleigh. She's no spring chicken, but she'll fly just fine. If Zorpax can get us that quantum fuel, this old beauty can go the distance. Santa grinned and climbed into the driver's seat, adjusting his red coat. Sometimes it's the old reliable ones that get the job done. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Right, Rudy 2.0 grumbled from the front, eyeing the sleigh with suspicion. But I'm telling you, Santa, you put this thing in the hands of a rookie, and we're getting stuck in an asteroid field before you can say, ho, ho, ho. Rudy, I told you before, this sleigh's still got plenty of magic left, Santa said, giving the reindeer a playful pat. But if I'm being honest, it does miss the zip of the new sleigh. A small group of elves came over with bags of gifts, securing them in the sleigh's cargo area. The elves worked in silence for a moment, but one of them, Sprocket, an engineer elf with a penchant for gadgets, looked up, his face serious. Santa, you sure about this? Sprocket asked, giving a worried glance at the old sleigh. I mean, we've got everything in place, but if the quantum fuel's not here yet... I know, Sprocket, Santa said with a reassuring smile. But we can't let anything stop Christmas. We've got magic on our side, and this sleigh... well, it's seen more than its share of adventures. Just then, Jingles checked the communicator in his hand. He pressed a button, and the screen flickered, revealing a slightly disheveled Zorpax, his gruff face appearing on the holographic display. Santa, I told you, don't start without me. I'm still dealing with those fuel suppliers. You know how it is. Zorpax's voice crackled with static. 1 minute they promise quantum fuel, the next minute they're swindling me out of it. Don't worry, Zorpax. Take your time. Just don't make me wait too long this time, all right? Santa said, giving a warm wink. The elves are on standby, and we've got a full sleigh of gifts ready to go. Zorpax groaned, rubbing his forehead. You've got no idea how much I hate dealing with space traders. But fine, I'll have it ready soon enough. Just promise me you won't go flying off without it. You have my word, Santa said, chuckling. We'll be grounded for as long as it takes. After the conversation ended, Santa adjusted the controls on the sleigh, his mind buzzing with a mixture of excitement and concern. As the crew settled in and prepared for takeoff, Jingles gave a quick thumbs up. All systems are ready, Santa, Jingles said, his usual cheerful self, just waiting on that fuel. Well, Santa said, turning to the elves, let's make sure everything else is locked down. If Zorpax isn't ready in time, we'll be doing this the old-fashioned way. And just like that, the team went into their final preparations. The festive mood of the elves and the cozy warmth of the North Pole workshop were now replaced with the high-energy hum of holiday magic and the buzz of the sleigh's engines warming up. As Santa gave the signal, Rudy 2.0 trotted to the front, the reindeer's mechanical feet clanking against the snow as they prepared to launch. "Here we go, team," Santa called, excitement in his voice. The sleigh rose slowly off the ground, the elves waving as it ascended, leaving the North Pole workshop behind. Through the shimmering northern lights, the sleigh soared higher and higher, ready to spread holiday cheer all across the world. Santa couldn't help but feel a little bit of a thrill, even in the face of uncertainty. It was going to be one of the most exciting Christmases yet, whether Zorpax showed up with the quantum fuel or not. "Well, team," Santa said, his eyes twinkling as they all piled into the sleigh. "Next stop, the North Pole. Let's get this round of deliveries done, and then we'll bring in the new sleigh for its first full test run." The old sleigh hummed through the stars, its engine sputtering with a familiar, comforting sound. Santa sat at the helm, guiding the sleigh through the vastness of space. His eyes twinkled as he peered out at the endless cosmos. Around him, the crew was huddled, each absorbed in their own thoughts or adjusting gear for the impending fuel transfer. Jingles, ever the chatterbox, leaned over the side of the sleigh and squinted toward the horizon. "Do you think Zorpax will actually have the quantum fuel this time?" he asked, his voice dripping with playful skepticism. "Or is he too busy trying to sell off his space crystals to the highest bidder again?" Santa chuckled, his belly shaking with the sound. "Knowing Zorpax, it'll be a bit of both. But we've got the fudge this time, so he'd better have the fuel ready and waiting." He flashed a knowing grin. "The man can never resist a good batch of black hole fudge." Rudy 2.0, who was sitting nearby, chimed in, his mechanical voice as dry as ever. "If he tries to eat it all himself again, I'll cut him off. He can't keep taking everything for himself." Santa laughed heartily. "Well, he did try to eat it all last time, then had a bit of a black hole incident of his own. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. If not, we'll just have to make more." "Speaking of more," Jingles said, pointing ahead, "there it is, folks. Zorpax's space station. Can't miss it. You see that giant floating rock with all the weird glowing lights? That's where we need to drop this off." The station loomed in the distance, a huge metallic structure suspended in space, festooned with glowing neon signs and an array of ships docked at various airlocks. A few stray asteroids drifted lazily by, as if to make sure the station's business was properly highlighted. "I'm starting to think Zorpax has never done a day of work without making everything a spectacle," Rudy 2.0 muttered under his breath. Santa, however, was more focused on the task at hand. "All right, crew, let's make this quick. Jingles, you're in charge of the fudge delivery. Keep it together this time." Jingles saluted with a wink. "You got it, Santa. I'll make sure Zorpax gets his fudge in one piece, and not in his stomach this time." As the sleigh docked with the station, the airlock hissed open and the crew quickly disembarked. Jingles, with his usual exaggerated stride, carried the box of black hole fudge carefully wrapped in shimmering, starry paper. It looked almost too beautiful to eat, and yet they all knew how irresistible it was. "Good luck with that," Santa said, shaking his head with a grin. "Last time Zorpax tried to eat half of it before we could make the delivery." "Yeah, well, it is pretty tasty," Jingles replied, grinning as he approached the main docking area. "I wouldn't blame him, really." Inside the station, Zorpax was exactly where they'd expected to find him, hunched over a console, his long reptilian fingers tapping away as he muttered to himself in a language none of them quite understood. His jagged snout twitched as he heard the crew approaching, and he lifted his head, his gleaming eyes settling on Jingles with a predatory smile. "Well, if it isn't Santa Claus and his merry little helpers," Zorpax rumbled, his voice like gravel grinding underfoot. "And I see you brought the most important part of our deal, the fudge." Jingles grinned, holding out the box like a prized treasure. "The finest batch of black hole fudge, straight from the North Pole, just for you, Zorpax, and you'd better make sure to leave some for the rest of us this time." Zorpax took the box with a dramatic flair, running his fingers over the ribbon before lifting the lid just a little, inhaling deeply. Ah, perfect. You're definitely getting more than you bargained for this time. Trust me. Jingles raised an eyebrow. I'll believe it when I see it. Last time you ate everything before we could even blink. Zorpax grinned, revealing a row of sharp teeth. You've got a point, but this time, I'm sharing. I promise. The air was filled with a familiar buzz of energy as the crew set to work. Santa nodded toward the fuel storage unit. All right, Zorpax, the quantum fuel. It better be ready. Zorpax gestured to the corner where a series of containers sat neatly stacked. Right there. Pure, unrefined quantum fuel, just as promised. You won't find a better batch anywhere in the galaxy. Santa raised an eyebrow. I hope so. We've got a whole sleigh of deliveries to make. Rudy 2.0, eyeing the containers suspiciously, let out a sigh. Let's just make sure it doesn't explode this time, all right? I'm really not in the mood for another intergalactic emergency. Zorpax chuckled, his voice deep and rumbling. Oh, no explosions this time, cross my heart. It's the finest fuel in the galaxy, and I've made sure it's stable. As the crew worked, carefully filling the sleigh's fuel tanks with the volatile substance, Santa glanced over at Zorpax with a knowing look. You've had your hands in all kinds of business lately, haven't you? Still making deals with those space traders? Zorpax smirked. Wouldn't you like to know? Let's just say, I've got my fingers in more pies than I care to count, and you know sometimes pies can be a bit dangerous. Jingles couldn't help but laugh at that. Well, if you're dealing with pies, make sure they're not the explosive kind, Zorpax. Last time your space cakes nearly put me in the hospital. Zorpax's eyes glinted with amusement. That was one time, Jingles. And besides, you're still here, aren't you? Unfortunately, Jingles muttered under his breath as he helped secure the final fuel tank. With the sleigh loaded up, the crew made their way back to the airlock. Santa took one last look around the station. All right, team. Let's head back to the North Pole and get the new sleigh prepped for its first real test. Zorpax, you've done good this time. Well, of course, Zorpax said, puffing out his chest slightly. I do good work, even if it's for a jolly old man and his team of merry misfits. That's the Christmas spirit, Zorpax, Santa replied, winking. We'll be back soon, don't you worry. As the crew boarded the sleigh, Rudy 2.0 sighed with a metallic groan. All right, let's get this over with. But if this sleigh breaks down again, Santa, I'm not pulling you back. Santa grinned from the driver's seat as the sleigh rose into the air, leaving Zorpax's space station behind. You'll be fine, Rudy. It's Christmas after all, and no matter what happens, we've got plenty of fuel and fudge to keep us going. Jingles chuckled, looking at the box of fudge in the back. Well, that's definitely true. As the old sleigh rocketed off into the vast expanse of space, the crew was filled with excitement for what lay ahead. The next round of deliveries would take them further than ever before, but with the quantum fuel safely on board, they felt ready for anything. And perhaps, just perhaps, the new sleigh would be ready for its debut after all. The sleigh zipped through the asteroid field, its quantum-powered engines giving it unprecedented speed and agility. Santa adjusted the controls, keeping the sleigh steady as Jingles, Rudy, and the rest of the crew braced themselves. It wasn't the easiest of routes, but it was all part of the job. Besides, Santa was an expert at navigating through tricky situations. Well, this is fun, Jingles muttered, gripping the edge of his seat. The asteroid field outside looked like a chaotic storm of rock and debris, and each sudden twist and turn of the sleigh made Jingles' stomach do flips. Don't worry, Jingles, Santa said with a grin, not taking his eyes off the control panel. I've got this under control. Rudy, who had been unusually silent for the last few minutes, finally broke in. We've got a blip on the radar, approaching fast. Santa squinted at the screen. Could be a stray miner's ship. I don't expect trouble in this part of space, but we'll have to keep an eye out. Jingles, pass me that emergency comlink. Jingles handed over the small device, eyeing the radar suspiciously. Could be pirates, Santa. They love hanging around these parts, preying on anything they can catch. Pirates? Rudy said dryly, raising his mechanical eyebrow. I don't think they'll get much from us, Jingles. This sleigh's not exactly carrying treasure. Yeah, tell that to them when they see the sleigh's golden trim, Jingles muttered, but Santa just chuckled. You're right, Rudy. We'll keep it peaceful if we can. But just in case, keep the shields at full power, Jingles. You've got the cargo ready to go? Jingles tapped his wrist communicator. All gifts secured, ready for delivery. But seriously, Santa, I think you're underestimating the potential of space pirates. Santa's eyes twinkled as he activated the comlink. Let's talk to them before it gets ugly. The static crackled, followed by a gruff voice. This is Captain Zalgar of the Black Rift. Who's flying this sleigh? Santa straightened, his voice calm but firm. This is Santa Claus. I'm just passing through, delivering some gifts. We're not here for trouble. A low, rumbling chuckle came through the comms. Santa Claus? Well, well, what a pleasant surprise. I was just thinking about how I'd like to greet you, old man. Jingles exchanged a look with Rudy, who simply shrugged. No surprise there. Pirates don't get merry this time of year. Captain Zalgar, I understand you're running a business here, but we don't have time for a fight. Santa continued, his voice smooth and reassuring. I've got plenty of gifts for the kids around here. How about we call it a friendly exchange? You pick one gift and we go on our way. There was a long pause on the other end of the comlink. The crew could almost feel the pirate captain's calculating gaze through the static. After a tense beat, Zalgar's voice crackled back through, almost amused. One gift, eh? You've got guts, Santa. All right, I'll bite. You give me one gift, and I'll let you pass, for now. But you better believe if you try to leave here without giving us something else, it won't go so smoothly. You have my word. Santa's smile didn't falter. I think one gift will be just fine. It's Christmas after all. No need to make it any more complicated than that. There was a brief silence. Then the pirate captain's laugh echoed through the comms. Ho, ho, ho. All right then, Santa. I'll take your gift. But don't think you're getting off that easy. Santa leaned back in his seat with a chuckle. That was easier than I expected. He must be in the holiday spirit. Jingles glanced at him, his eyebrows furrowed. You really think that was it? You just handed over a present and he's going to let us go? No way. Something's up, Santa. Before Santa could respond, Rudy's mechanical voice rang out, cold and sharp. They're not backing off. I've just spotted 3 more ships coming out from behind the asteroids. They're closing in. Santa's face hardened slightly as he scanned the radar. I knew it was too easy. Looks like they were just buying time. Time for us to get close enough for an ambush. Jingles let out a frustrated breath. You were right. When things seem too easy, they usually are. The lights on the console flickered as the small pirate ships emerged, their weapons powering up. It was clear now. The pirates weren't interested in just one gift. They were after a lot more. All right, team, Santa said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. It's showtime, Jingles. I need you to launch a distraction. Rudy, you've got those plasma shields ready? You bet, Rudy replied. They'll be up in a second. But Santa, you might want to... But before Rudy could finish, the pirates fired their first shots. The sleigh systems roared to life as the shields activated just in time to absorb the first wave of energy blasts. Jingles, you're up! Santa shouted, gripping the reins as the sleigh jerked sharply to the left, narrowly avoiding another round of fire. Jingles scrambled to a small hatch at the back of the sleigh, pulling out a large, glittering device. You got it, he called back, flipping a switch. The device roared to life and shot out a massive burst of sparkling lights, creating a blinding explosion of color in the pirate's line of sight. Santa grinned. Perfect. That should give us a little breathing room. Jingles, his voice muffled as he ducked behind cover, added, That's right. Now they can't see a thing. Let's use it while we've got the edge. The pirate ships, momentarily disoriented, hesitated, firing blindly into the shimmering cloud of lights. This gave Santa the opening he needed. With a quick flick of his wrist, He activated the Sleigh's boosters, propelling them into a sharp maneuver that sent them soaring around the enemy ships. Santa turned to Jingles, who had already reloaded the distraction device for another round. "Just another minute, Jingles. Once we've got some distance, we can make our escape." Jingles grinned, his hands flying over the controls. "I've got just the thing, Santa. Hang tight." As the sleigh weaved in and out of the pirate formation, the bright lights flashing all around them, it was clear that the crew was working in perfect harmony. Even as the pirates raged behind them, Santa's crew had the upper hand, just enough time to escape. But just as they began to break free, Captain Zalger's voice crackled back into the comms. "You think you've won, Claus? Don't forget. You owe me. One gift is never enough for the likes of me. We'll be seeing you again soon." Santa's grin returned. "You'll get your share, Captain. But for now, enjoy the gift. And try not to cause too much chaos in the asteroid belt. It's Christmas, after all." With a final wink to the crew, Santa and his team made their escape, leaving the pirates behind in the cosmic dust. The sleigh coasted smoothly through the cold vacuum of space, the engines humming gently as the crew's destination came into view. The space station. A brief stop, but it was just what they needed to recharge, refuel, and reload. The station wasn't much more than a refueling stop, but it had its charm. Sleek metallic corridors filled with various alien species, some humanoid, some barely recognizable, came and went, each with their own holiday traditions, carrying curious cargo. Christmas lights twinkled between the docking bays, even in the vacuum of space, illuminating the festive decorations hanging from the station's curved walls. Some stations had sleek, sterile atmospheres, but this one felt like a second home to the crew. After completing their deliveries and getting a brief break on their first trip, they now needed to make a quick stop for supplies. They were due to pick up the rest of the quantum fuel they needed to power up for the fourth round of their holiday mission. Santa, ever the optimist, took a deep breath as they landed, savoring the smell of holiday cheer and alien spices wafting through the air. He stepped out of the sleigh, eyes twinkling beneath his iconic red hat. "Let's get this sleigh fueled up and ready for the fourth round. And remember, there's no such thing as too much holiday spirit." Jingles hopped off next, clutching his legal binder. "Right. I'll check on the paperwork for the fuel, Santa. Just making sure everything's up to code." Santa waved him off with a chuckle. "You're always thinking ahead, Jingles. Don't work too hard. We've got time for a short break." "Break? You're talking about a break?" Zorpax's voice came from behind them, gruff and a little irritated. He was fiddling with a wrench in the cargo hold, clearly trying to fix something that had gone wrong earlier. "I'm the one fixing this sleigh while you're all making merry. Next time, I want an upgrade to something that doesn't break every 5 minutes. "Are you sure it's not just your lack of festive cheer causing these issues?" Jingles teased, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Maybe we need to sprinkle some Christmas magic on those engines. Couldn't hurt." Zorpax's growl was unmistakable, but he didn't seem too angry. Instead, he grumbled something under his breath and held up a tray of cookies. "Speaking of magic, these cookies, are they supposed to taste like sugar and chaos? Because they sure do." Santa chuckled and patted Zorpax on the shoulder. "That's Christmas magic for you. The more you complain, the sweeter they get. Or maybe that's just the sugar rush." Zorpax muttered something about a sugar-induced malfunction, but took a bite anyway. "Fine, I'll play along, but only because it's Christmas." He rolled his eyes as he chewed, though his lips twitched upward despite his best efforts to maintain a gruff exterior. As the crew walked toward the space station's docking bay, Rudy piped up, his voice carrying the familiar metallic tone of his mechanical legs. "I'm heading over to recharge. I've got a spare charger here on the station, so I'll be quick." "Got it, Rudy," Santa replied, smiling warmly. "Don't go too far. We'll need you for the fourth round of deliveries once we're fueled up. We can't do this without you." Rudy gave a thumbs up, though it looked more like a mechanical gesture than a gesture of reassurance. "I'll be back soon. Just need to make sure I'm at full power for the next round." The crew continued their walk toward the station's refueling bay, where they were met by a fleet of bustling attendants who began unloading the sleigh's empty cargo hold and preparing the quantum fuel containers for transport. Zorpax, always quick to offer his expertise, stepped forward. "Let's get this fuel loaded. Then I'll double-check the engines to make sure everything's ready for round 4. It's been too quiet for my liking. The galaxy never stays calm for long." Santa smiled, his eyes twinkling. "That's the spirit, Zorpax. Keep us on track. And remember, there's always time for a cookie break." Jingles, looking slightly overwhelmed by the piles of paperwork, took a moment to look around. "Honestly, it's always good to stop here. The aliens on the station really know how to do Christmas. You see that? That's a Wibble-Moopian Christmas tree. Look at those ornaments. I think it's using reverse gravity to keep the ornaments from falling off." "I see that," Zorpax said, glancing over. "I also see that you've become a Christmas aficionado, Jingles. What's next? A crash course in alien holiday cheer?" "I think I already have one," Jingles grinned, holding up his binder. "Now let's make sure this fuel transfer goes smoothly." After a brief moment, Zorpax turned to Santa. "I'll handle the fuel," he said, gesturing to the rest of the quantum fuel containers. "You and Jingles take care of the gifts. Rudy's recharging, so I guess I'm the official mechanic for the next few hours. You're lucky I like Christmas so much." Santa patted him on the back. "We're lucky to have you, Zorpax. Just don't break anything else, all right?" Zorpax rolled his eyes but couldn't hide the faint smirk on his face. "I'm not making any promises." As the crew worked together, it was clear that the magic of Christmas wasn't just in the presents or the sleighs. It was in the camaraderie, the laughter, and the moments of quiet joy that came with being together. Rudy returned to the group, fully recharged, and took his place next to the sleigh. "Ready to go?" he asked, his voice tinged with the usual mechanical precision. Santa grinned, giving a hearty thumbs up. "Ready as we'll ever be. 4th round of deliveries, here we come." With that, the sleigh's engines roared to life once more, the crew ready for the next leg of their mission. It wasn't just about the presents, the sleigh, or the fuel. It was about the spirit of Christmas, and no matter how far they traveled, they were never too far from home